Coming up on Network Africa. Alleged attempts to foil, to destabilize in Burkina Faso. The government foils those attempts. Nationwide lockdown looms in Ghana as it battles illegal mining crisis. Nigeria challenges world leaders on inclusivity, equality, and cooperation. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Amarachi Bani. Let's begin in Burkina Faso, where Security Minister Mahamadou Sana claims that government thwarted subversive activities of certain individuals residing in Côte d'Ivoire. He was speaking on national television on Monday night, where he accused 14 people of plotting to destabilize the country. The minister accused, among them, junta opponents, the leader of the January 2022 coup, two former ministers, two journalists, unidentified conspirators, including Western intelligence officials. Authorities say Burkinabe civilians and servicemen living abroad who paid and trained armed groups to conduct attacks devised an elaborate three-phase plot. The first phase of the alleged plan was the jihadi attack that killed at least 100 people in central Burkina Faso last month. The second phase included attacks on the presidential palace, a military drone base, and an airport. The last phase were attacks near the Côte d'Ivoire border. Here in West Africa, Ghana is set to undergo a nationwide lockdown on Monday, September 30, as civil servants and labor unions escalate their campaign against illegal mining, widely known as galamsey. The environmental devastation caused by these unregulated operations has triggered growing demands for urgent government intervention, including state of emergency in mining areas and the cancellation of mining licenses. Recent reports from the Ghana Water Company Limited highlighted the gravity of the situation, with severe water shortages resulting from contamination of key water sources. Meanwhile, there have been calls for government to release over 40 people police arrested over the weekend for protests against illegal mining. They were charged with conspiracy to commit crime, unlawful assembly, damage of property, offensive conduct, and assault on a public officer.
When you go to war and you poison the water of your enemy, is considered a war crime. So when you have a people who poison their own selves, if you have leaders who have to act, who refuse to act, president should act now.
And get the military to clear everyone found on the water bodies. All entry permits given to mine in protected globally significant biodiversity areas must also be abroad.
Would urgently embark on series of demonstrations and a nationwide strike if government fails to address the concerns raised by end of September 2025.
Then we need to choose one. If you choose galamsey, you're choosing death. And therefore, our water bodies and all resources must be protected.
Let's bring in Ghanaian journalist Maxwell Agbaba to give us some perspective on this. Maxwell, it's great to see you. Help us understand what exactly the problem is and how this really impacts on the Ghanaian people and their resources.
Well, it's a very, the issue of illegal mining is a very serious one that really affected the last election, had a lot of impact in the last elections that were held. In fact, the governing New Patriotic Party said that it lost votes in the 2020 elections, largely because of its fight against illegal mining. And so really it's a big issue here in Ghana, especially also because a lot of environmentalists and even the ordinary Ghanaian people are raising concerns about how illegal mining pollutes Ghana's water bodies and also destroys our forests, contributing to the issues or the consequences of climate change and all others. So really, it's become a very topical issue in recent times here in Ghana, especially also coming on the back of the Ghana Water Company Limited raising concerns about the heavy pollution of Ghana's water bodies. So you've had a lot of interest groups, the Trades Union Congress, which is organized labor, you have the clergy, you have political parties all speaking up against the issue of illegal mining. And so the Trades Union Congress, which is organized labor, they have given government an ultimatum, and that ultimatum will end at the end of this month, that is September. And they are urging government to take decisive action against the issue of illegal mining. Key amongst the things that they want the government to do is to, one, declare a state of emergency on the menace. Secondly, also deploy the military into some of those heavily affected areas of illegal mining. And also, they want government to totally ban illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey, in Ghana's forest reserves. So these are some of the conditions that they've given to government. And they are saying that government must hit these demands. They're saying if it does not hit this demand, if government does not these demands, what they'll do is to shut down the entire country and then declare a strike. So that threat is looming now because we just have some days for September to end, and we are all waiting to see what exactly is going to happen, what action the Trade Union Congress Organized Labor is going to take.
Yes, and I heard one of the respondents, in the soundbite we played earlier, saying that, it is worse when it is Ghanaians who are the ones poisoning Ghanaians. So I want to know who have they identified the people involved in this illegal mining? Are they also Ghanaian companies? Are they Ghanaian people? And then what part of the country are these? Is this illegal mining taking place?
Well, if you come to the capital, the issue of illegal mining is not visible. There's no illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey, happening here in the capital. It's happening in the heavily forested areas of Ghana. That is where you have people, destroying the forests and mining, for gold. You go to some places with water bodies also. There's a lot of alluvial, mining going on there in those places. So it's absent here in the capital, Accra, that there are heavily forested areas of Ghana. You find people mining illegally in those forests. Some of them also mining alluvial gold in Ghana's water bodies, in places where you can find, some of the water bodies. So in places like the Ashanti region, which is Ashanti region, you find people doing that, and then other parts, of the country. And those taking part in these illegal mining are mostly young people who do not have jobs. And sometimes also we've had situations where some Chinese nationals have been caught engaging in this illegal mining menace. Some of them were previously arrested and jailed because of that. And we've had some of our neighbors also coming into the country and then taking part in the illegal mining.
Maxwell, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention and for your explanation on the situation on the ground. Thanks again.
Okay. Welcome.
Nigeria has called on world leaders to recommit themselves to multilateralism by deepening relations among member states of the United Nations in line with the principles of inclusivity, equality, and cooperation. Vice President Kashim Shettima made the call on behalf of the president at the UN General Assembly as he addressed them yesterday in New York City. He had more to say from the president's message to world leaders in New York. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lassisi, reports.
World leaders gather for the opening ceremony of the general debate of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States. Starting off the speeches, the Secretary General of the United Nations warned nations to draw back from the impunity, inequality, and uncertainty which is creating an unsustainable world.
Let's move our world towards less impunity and more accountability, less inequality and more justice, less uncertainty and more opportunity. The people of the world are looking to us, and succeeding generations will look back on us. Let them find us on the side of the United Nations Charter, on the side of our shared values and principles, and on the right side of history.
Appearing for the final time, the President of the United States stressed his optimism that world leaders can succeed in charting a new future despite the present grim outlook.
I know there is a way forward. In 1919, the Irish poet William Butler Yeats described a world, and I quote, "where things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world," end of quote. Some may say those words describe the world not just in 1919, but in 2024. But I see a critical distinction.
Representing President Bola Tinubu at the event, Vice President Kashim Shettima delivered Nigeria's message to the leaders gathered. He noted that it is clear that more needs to be done to reverse the realities facing the world today.
Today, these pillars of our organization are threatened. They risk being broken by the relentless pursuit of individual national priorities rather than the collective needs of the nations that are assembled here today. While commitment to multilateralism offers us the surest guarantee of global action to address the existential challenges we face, singularity and nationalism are undermining the aspirations towards the peaceful and collective resolution of such challenges.
He also called for a collaboration that revives confidence in democratic rule and international cooperation.
The continued manifestations of these challenges testifies to our failings rather than to any lofty achievements on our part. Billions of dollars are being committed to the prosecution of wars and the planning of the embers of conflict. Yet, we always recoil from bringing out the resources we need to build peace and to deliver life's necessities to people. The question of governance is at the heart of our problems and also the solution to them.
The Vice President also restated the call for a permanent seat for Africa on the UN Security Council and also asked for debt forgiveness for developing countries. The general debate is to continue on Wednesday. From New York, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
Summit of the Future in New York. Sudan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Hussein Awad Ali, has criticized the United Nations for what he calls a double standard. He's calling for reforms instead. His comments come a day after the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed his alarm at the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces' full-scale assault on the Sudanese city of Al-Fashir. Awad Ali has found fault with fact-finding reports by the UN Human Rights Council, which he called for imposing an arms embargo on both the RSF and the Sudanese armed forces. The Sudanese foreign minister pointed out that this deprives his country of the ability to defend itself and is a violation of its sovereignty. Earlier this week, Sudan's army and the RSF said that they were open for peaceful solutions to a war that has been ongoing for more than 17 months. War erupted in Sudan between the Sudanese army and the RSF in April last year, triggering the world's largest displacement crisis. Welcome back to Network Africa. ECOWAS member states have met in Lagos to finalize and approve the design of the Lagos-Abidjan corridor highway development project. It's in preparation to initiate the procurement process at its next meeting. The meeting, which was chaired by Nigeria's Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, who mentioned that the project initiated in 2013, had received significant funding support from the African Development Bank. He noted that the heads of member states of ECOWAS have met to agree on the project and that various stages of development, including design, environmental impact assessment, and funding mechanisms, had been ongoing for the past 11 years. On his part, the Minister of Roads and Highway in Ghana, Mr. Francis Boakye, emphasized how highways could facilitate trade, tourism, and economic activities, and cited the example of the United States economic boom as evidence of this correlation. The Lagos-Abidjan Corridor Highway, scheduled to begin in 2025, is part of the Greater Dakar-Lagos Corridor and one of the flagship priority development programs of the ECOWAS. To Nigeria now, the U.S. CDC, in conjunction with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, has convened a media roundtable in Lagos to communicate the scope and impact of their collaborative work in the public health space. Since 2003, the U.S. CDC has been a partner of the federal and state ministries of health in Nigeria to improve health outcomes. Alale Yusuf reports.
Seated here, serving as hosts for this media roundtable, are members of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, U.S. CDC, and their Nigerian counterparts. Members of the press are the guests of the health bodies who are seeking to highlight the CDC's collaboration for public health emergency management, FEM, in the country.
The U.S. government has contributed over $2 million United States dollars to the FEM program in Nigeria. It's also important to mention that a senior U.S. CDC epidemiologist supports FEM operations, outbreak response, and public health EOC coordination at national and state level.
The occasion doubles as the graduation of 55 public health officials from the combined third and fourth cohorts of the Nigeria FEM Intermediate Program.
Since 2017, we've trained about 200 public health staff who have graduated from the FEM basic course, giving them the requisite capacity, to serve and perform watch functions in the EOCs.
In addition to responding to disease outbreaks, public health personnel have the responsibility to prevent disease stemming from natural disasters such as flood, bringing into sharp relief NIMET's prediction of a second peak of rainfall in the southwest before year's end.
It's about systems. We have to put systems in place. We have early warning systems that we've developed for emergencies. They're already in place in the camps in Borno. Those are the things that we're trying to set up in the Southwest as well, so that they can provide data that show us whether we are at the brink of an outbreak or not. But what I was saying earlier is that these systems are not perfect, and that's what we're trying to strengthen. We have our nation that has limited resources, and so we need to direct those resources where we're having the most morbidity and mortality.
The US CDC pledges to support Nigeria to strengthen its core capacities of surveillance, workforce development, and emergency preparedness as she faces off multiple disease outbreaks. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
U.S. President Joe Biden is set to visit Angola next month. The announcement was made by the White House on Tuesday of what will be the president's first trip to the continent while in office. He will, however, first visit Berlin in Germany, after which he is expected to be in Angola between October 13 and 15, where he will discuss firming up economic ties and boosting security, among other issues, with President João Lourenço. President Biden is also to discuss a vision for a rail project which would start in Angola and link the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. He had set his sights on visiting the country last year, but his plans were put on hold after the Israel-Hamas conflict erupted in October. He has vowed closer U.S. ties with democracies on the African continent. Speaking of the African continent, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has assured investors at the New York Stock Exchange that the government of national unity has reignited confidence in the country's economy. While attending the United Nations General Assembly, President Ramaphosa took the opportunity to address investors, emphasizing that South Africa is on the path to economic recovery and inviting them to join in the country's growth journey.
Having put the government together, we got 10 parties to coalesce and work together. We all signed a statement of intent, which puts right at the top the growth of the economy, creation of jobs, ridding our country of poverty and all that, and improving governance and focusing on a number of issues that will improve the lives of South Africans. That move has been so widely accepted by a majority of South Africans. Yesterday, I had the honor of meeting the Secretary General of the United Nations, and the very first message was to congratulate me and South Africans for having set up a unity government. This is once again giving a very good precedent of how I believe political parties should navigate the way around the global challenges which you have alluded to, because the world faces enormous challenges and problems.
And while the South African president is in New York City for the UN General Assembly, back home, 34-year-old Mavundla has been a leading figure in promoting the culture of cycling in the South African city of Cape Town, through his Kalisha Cycling Academy. He teaches first-time riders how to handle a bike, including young girls in impoverished communities where opportunities like this are hard to come by.
Hi, my name is Cindy Mavundla, and I'm the bicycle mayor of Cape Town.
Located around 30 kilometers from the city center, Khayelitsha, the largest shanty town in Cape Town, is a sea of dilapidated wood, iron, and concrete shacks. This is in sharp contrast to the city's leafy and affluent suburbs. It is here that Cindy Mavundla guides young girls on their bikes through a street in Cape Town's Khayelitsha township. He wants to get as many of them as he can into cycling.
Majority of girls in the township, they are not given much sport options, and we've always seen that bicycle has the potential of changing lives.
Students of the academy, some who once had to walk kilometers to get to their schools, can testify that life is vastly different.
It's very rare to see girls cycling, so I saw an opportunity of a lifetime. Girls cycling here in Khayelitsha is one of the best things. We're encouraging more girls to do cycling, encouraging more girls to be more involved in cycling. And I believe that we're doing history for our township, Khayelitsha. We're doing history for Cape Town, and we're doing history for South Africa.
Amid cheers from her classmates, a girl tries to ride a bicycle for the first time before fumbling and falling flat on the floor. Mavundla helps her get back on her feet, and she finally gets the hang of it. However, for many already using bicycles to commute to work and school, the city's infrastructure is still challenging to navigate. As a result, Roland Postman, a managing director at Young Urbanist South Africa, is working with the city to create safer and sustainable bicycle lanes to meet the growing number of cyclists across the city.
Cycling is a means of a very affordable transportation in not just Cape Town, but across the country. To give an example, one tank of petrol is one second-hand bicycle. So it's a means of transportation. But the problem is most of Cape Town's cycling infrastructure is not safe. As you can see, a car, a very expensive car, a metal box, parking illegally, but also dangerously. So as a solution, Young Urbanists and our partners, SDI Trust, are working with the City of Cape Town to upgrade the cycling lane through a public-private partnership. So that means we're going to use concrete curbs, safe-hit bollards like this to repurpose the cycling lane, because we know from studies that paint is not infrastructure.
The Academy has 30 members and was started in 2022. Mavundla says its work has seen an influx of other girls who want to start cycling. The term bicycle mayor is given by Amsterdam-based global cycling advocacy group Bikes, which also has mayors in other African cities, including Nairobi, Gaborone, Lagos, and Abuja.
You have to agree, it is a much healthier way to get around. Thanks for watching Network Africa. I'm Amarachi Ubani.